And I didn't get hold of him, and I said, this is, but I roped against John. I beat John in every roping contest with ever in.
You did?
Well,
Yeah, when I was 15 years old, he was 35.
Well, how come he could always catch him by the hind legs?
I never did try to catch him with a hind leg.
Well, was that...
He must have gotten better when he got older then.
How'd you
That's
try
the
to
only
catch
way he got him, as I remember.
How'd
I've
you
seen him do
catch
it.
him?
I caught mine with the head.
You did?
Because I roped for Brandon.
Rope
Yeah.
for Brandon.
Yeah.
See, we'd round up and we'd have 200 head of calves in there to brand.
Yeah.
You had to rope. I roped them with a head so the boys could throw them down and brand them.
Mm-hmm.
But John was always a good friend of mine because
Yeah.
in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Now then, let's see who this old boy is here.
Did you know somebody named Buster Lee?
Yeah.
Okay, in a minute you're going to see Buster Lee on a bronc in there. But you don't think that's Buster Lee then?
I don't think so.
Okay.
See, Joe Tuck had a brother named Jeff.
Yeah.
And Jeff was a pretty good little bronc rider.
Uh-huh.
And Joe wasn't.
I wonder where
Jeff-
those tucks came from.
They come from north up around Seymour.
Yeah.
The other side of Seymour.
Because that's not a too common name.
No.
I've got a brother-in-law named Tuck, and I just wondered.
Well, those boys, I think they kind of ran off from home some way or another.
Yeah.
I don't know what.
Yeah. They were just ordinary cowboy
Yeah,
types.
they just young fellas
Yeah.
up there. Used to have to haul water, you know.
They used to haul the water in those wooden tank wagons.
Yeah, we had wooden ones. This is really a metal deal here with wooden end in it.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
These pictures look hot to me. I mean, I bet it's hot.
It was hot, yeah.
Yeah. Well, these are beautiful pictures, aren't they?
Can you believe that they've stayed good this long, Uncle Rick?
Look, I've got one that Frank Reeves taken and it's 75 years old.
I told baby about it.
I'd like to see that picture. 75 years old. Wow.
It leaves.
Yeah.
Is that the one Tony framed for you that long?
Yeah.
You have it at your apartment? Where is it?
Frank Reeves was Mr. Hastings' secretary, right?
Well,
How did he get involved in photography, Frank Reeves?
well, see, Mr. Reeves?
Frank Reeves, yeah. Uh-huh. How did he get to be, was he a cowboy or was he one?
You see, he went to work for Mr. Hastings. Mr. Hastings, if y'all remember, or did you know,
Yeah, I've read
that
about
he
it.
was the sales manager.
Yeah.
He had charge of selling all the stock. And it was the only outfit for years and years that sold cattle by mail order
Mm-hmm.
when nobody else ever
Right.
sold
He
it.
promoted the
He
mail
promoted
order
it, that's true. I was
and,
there.
The beef
That-
cattle industry was
Yeah.
big in
And you know, he used to get me off to the sidewalk, and I was just, see, I was born there and worked, which none of the boys ever work now. I was 12, 14 years old, and my daddy would let me go to Kansas City with a shipment of cattle when I had no more.
Well, now,
business.
who was your daddy?
Oscar.
Oscar, and that was a brother to Doc
Right.
Oscar, yeah.
you born on that.
Well, Bert Johnson mentions Oscar in this tape you're going to hear pretty soon. He mentions Oscar.
Yeah. He came over. Dad was really the first ones that came over to this country.
Yeah.
Now, you talk about this man not interesting, but his case is a very interesting thing. He ran off from home when he was 12 years old and got on a ship and hid out because his mother died and had been dead quite some time, and his daddy married again. And it's a case of which sometimes they don't. She didn't like him, didn't like the kids, little kids. And she beat Dad every time he says every time he turned around, she'd give him another good licking. And he got on this boat and hid out. Well, he didn't have a dime in the world and not a change of clothes. He had on a pair of pants and a shirt. No underwear, no shoes, no nothing. And they made him shovel coal all the way to Louisiana, New Orleans. When he got off in New Orleans, he didn't know a soul in the world and couldn't speak a word of English.
And he came from Sweden.
Sweden, direct from Sweden. So he said he walked around, up and down, couldn't see anybody, tried to talk to people, nobody knew anything. So, but he finally had to go do something, so he went to a little old restaurant and made the man understand that he would work for his food, the place to stay. And he said, well, he had a place for him. He paid him. He didn't have any place to stay except a little old storeroom. And there's nothing back there but toe sacks and rats. That's all there is back there. And he said, you clean it up and stay there. So he stayed in the back end of that for a good long while. And it was right on the bank of the little creek down there. And he'd go down there every day, take a bath, wash his clothes and hang them on a limb. While they took a bath, they would dry, of course, in the summertime. And he only had just one change of clothes. That's all he had. He didn't have to, till he just flat wore them out. And later on, Mr. S.M. Swenson came along, and of course, just like Pablo, we spotted Negro, Swedes could spot each other somehow or another. So he saw Mr. S.M. and got talking to him, and he's the man that brought him to West Texas and brought him some clothes.
But he didn't come over with a big group of Swedish people. He kind of came by himself.
It wasn't any big group. S.M. Swenson, they say in the history books, was the first Swede to come to Texas.
Well, he was the first to come to Texas.
And then he got other Swedish
Yes, he
people,
did.
active people.
See, he was one of those guys that had them little old rugs on his back, you know.
Yeah.
Mr. S.M. was.
He everything he did turned to money. He was highly successful as a merchant.
Yes,
So
well.
he figures prominently in Austin history.
Huh?
Swenson, S.M.
Yeah.
And he was a friend of Sam Houston.
Yeah.
He's
Of course,
very
he was
prominent.
rather a smart man, Mr. S.M. was.
He made money.
Yeah,
Everything he did made money.
yeah. He brought Dad to Albany, and Dad went to school and finished school in Albany, went to high school. Graduated from high school in Albany. Couldn't speak a word of English. I don't know how in the world they ever did it. But he wrote a beautiful hand. Learned to write, learned to read, of course, do everything. And Mr. S.M. was the man that put him in school down there. And a fellow by the name of another old cowboy was Mace Holmberg.
Homburg.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard that name.
Well, he was one of the old, you see, they picked up those fellows in the old days that could, kind of the nationality, and they could kind of talk to them, and first one they knew. Mage and Adip. Adip had a brother later. I worked for Adip in
Was that his last name?
Adip Holmberg.
Oh, Homburg.
Are you saying A-Dip?
Adip.
A-Dip.
That was his first name.
Yeah.
Homburg was his last name.
He was at Paducah, that ranch up there.
Mm-hmm.
I worked for him later in 1912. When,
And you started when you were 14, or working for Swenson's?
well, I suspect the first check I ever got was even before I was 14, and
My
it was
goodness.
only $10.
My goodness.
But this Johnson, he started out real soon too.
And then you worked until
He was a
1919.
kid, too.
1919 and quit and became a Stanford.
Yeah,
Went to work for the railroad company down there.
yeah. Did you work on the on the flat top, or which one?
Well, I belonged to Throckmorton, but I worked on all of them. I worked with Flat Top every year, twice or three times a year. We go down there and do the branding,
Yeah.
do the shipping.
You worked on the Tongue River, right?
Yes, that's where Adip was. Adip Palmer, he's at the Tongue River. That's the ranch up close to Paducah. Right.
They kind of had 4 different areas: the Spur Ranch, Throckmorton, the Tongue River, and Blacktop.
Did you see a little write-up in the paper the other day about they consolidated those ranches?
Well,
No.
the Spur Ranch has been sold.
Yes.
Maybe knows who bought it, somebody from Lubbock.
Uh,
That's a
Well,
consolidation.
right there.
Yeah, because I've been told that. That name's familiar.
Hand me my purse.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get my other glasses.
Yeah.
These
Cole
are
was
like
Mama's brother, you know.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Was Breland, that wasn't Swedish, was it?
No. Well, Mama married Mr. Breland.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Mama's folks lived down at Luder's.
Yeah.
His name was Breland, and Dad was working down there at
Mm-hmm.
Edie Bar or Ericsdale.
Mm-hmm.
That's where he met Mama.
Mm-hmm.
Your mother hadn't been married before, has
She married 4 times.
she? Your mama?
Mm-hmm.
Now, Uncle Real. You're the
No, she,
Well, you said
she had been married when she was 15.
Well, I just so she didn't have much time to marry.
No,
That's a
that's Cole.
Okay.
Sure is.
You recognize that one?
No.
They're just plain old cowboy. Now this is a picture of my dad. Again, that was kind of posed
Ray
picture.
Rector.
Same time as the other one. It shows by the horse.
That's a good picture, Mr. Rector.
Yes, it is.
Oh,
We want
look. I bet you.
Now that's a fairly late picture because that has Tony Selman in it, that young man next to the one on the end. That's Tony Selman
Still,
when he was about 18. Because he recognized that.
Doctor might not recognize him
And
by
his-
the Scandalous John, because this was later, wasn't
Yeah.
it?
Do you know who that fella is, the one I call a typical cowboy? Do you know who that is? Nobody has yet been able to identify that name.
Well, this boy came from the 4-6 ranch. Yes, I don't know what his name was.
But he wasn't a Swenson.
His name wasn't Swenson,
He wasn't a Swenson cowboy.
but he come to work for us.
Oh, he did?
Yes, he did.
And you don't remember his name?
I sure don't. We called him 6.
6?
Yeah.
Because he's from the 4-6s?
Yeah.
Well, put that
My
down.
Lord.
That'll help maybe.
Yeah. Just call him 6.
Yeah. He was the toughest little old booger you ever met in your life.
He doesn't look tough.
Yeah, huh?
He doesn't
Looks
look
tough
tough.
to me.
You mean he could fight a bear?
Well, no, but I mean
He'd take on anybody.
horses and cattle or
He was
anything like that.
feisty,
Huh?
feisty. What's
Yeah.
it called, feisty?
He'd just break anything, huh? That's
Yeah.
what you mean.
Yeah.
6.
He said, I was straw boss out there. He said, you got any real mean horses? Yeah. Give me one of them. I'll just name it there. Well, we had a big old black horse. I read him. He wasn't to be fooled with. He was a real booger. They called him Star Devil. He said, okay, I'll take him. He got on him, saddled him up, and he bucked 3 or 4 jumps. And of course, this kind of tickled him good. He's a pretty good rider. But, long up in the day, after old everything got hot, one day he caught him off guard a little bit, and he bucked about 4 or 5 jumps, and off he went. I caught
That's
him.
his deer, huh?
Yeah. I caught him for him, and he says, just don't worry. I'm not hurt. I'm not sick. I'm not scared. Get with it.
Did he
won.
ever break you?
No, he didn't break him, but he rode him all the time. Now, this is the way we caught horses, to
Yeah.
ride during the day.
Is that Remuda?
Uh-huh. That's it.
Say Remuda.
Remuda.
Just plain art like Remuda.
Uh-huh. Remuda.
You don't put in T-H-E,
Why we used to call
Remuda.
it Remuda?
No, he never did.
Well, the Mexicans.
Remuda.
Mexicans
Just
first
plain old
invented the
Remuda.
Spanish word. What is a Remuda?
That's your,
That's a string.
Let him tell me what a Remuda is.
yeah, what is a remover?
What's a Remuda? Well, that's your bunch of saddle horses.
It's a string of horses.
Uh-huh.
That you gotta use, like that.
Yeah, that's a Remuda. Part of it. That's not all. That's just a part of it. We had 100 head of those.
Well, could they contain them with those ropes where they wouldn't, they see the rope that's drawn across here?
Yes, they were, these horses were all gentle, more
Yeah.
or less.
Mhm.
No, they could, of course, when they wanted him taking the notion, he went out of there,
Yeah.
but not bad.
But they weren't wild in the first
No.
place.
They were broken
They respected the rope.
You might say that was your reserve stock,
Yeah.
working stock.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
This is old Kelly.
yeah. Tell me about what you remember about Lee Kelly, and I'll see if your story jives with what Bert Johnson. He told me some tales about old Lee Kelly.
Well, I don't know hardly what.
Well, he said he was a pretty good drinker, and one time he was going through a gap somewhere, and the horses ran off with him, and he was drunk, and they pulled the wagon, turned it over, and pulled it, and said he got all bunged up real
Hurt
bad.
him pretty bad.
And he said that he was drunk a lot of times.
Well, he was kind of a guy that would drink every time he got a chance.
Yeah.
But actually, I don't recall the horses.
Said he hurt him, and he had to have a lot of dental work done. He hurt his mouth. He described this incident of
Maybe it was after Rip
I
left.
started saying
the horses getting away from him.
Could have been.
They were
I don't remember.
Going
While I
down
was
the
there.
gate.
But I remember him.
He's buried
because-
out here.
Is that right? Wasn't he the one that could make the best sourdough biscuits?
No,
He wasn't?
no. Kinchlow was the one that made the best.
Oh, Ross Kinchlow.
Kinchlows in that.
Yeah. Uh-huh. He made the best sourdough biscuits of anybody.
Did we ever have his?
Yeah, Ross Kinchlow cooked for what? The Spur or
No. Throckmorton for years.
Throckmorton.
And years. Uh-huh. Years and years.
And Lee Kelly cooked for the Flat Top, didn't he?
Can't you just taste sourdough, hot
Oh,
sourdough
wow.
biscuit?
And I can just see him sitting in that.
Well, tell us what you remember as a typical meal at the Chuck Wagon. What would they have to eat?
Every day, practically the same thing. Of course, most of the time we had steak, potatoes, and beans, and very little of any sideline stuff, such as
Dried fruit. You had dried fruit.
we had. Yes, we did. We had dried fruit and syrup. We had two kinds of dried fruit. We had peaches and apricots.
They were
And-
cheap in those days.
Huh?
They didn't cost $2 a pound.
No.
Well, did they? It was plenty of good food. Nobody complained about it.
Oh no, everybody happy.
That sounds good to me.
Yeah.
Listen, and tell him about the son of a gun stew.
How did they make son of a gun stew?
Okay. They made son of a gun stew. They taken everything. They take in an animal, you know, it's what they call a marrow gut. It's 35 feet or so of that marrow gut, and it doesn't have anything in it, fortunately. And it's just ribbed like ribbon, you know, just folded like that.
Good.
Yeah, that's pure gut. So we've taken that out and cut it up in little bitty pieces, and never told anybody like you all coming along why it wasn't going nobody to eat it. It wasn't going to eat guts, you know, right there, and all that. And then you cut, of course, liver, lights, and tongues,
Or
the hearts, all that stuff.
all that yucky stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but
He had
for sure.
potatoes.
Did they
Oh,
pepper
yes,
it up hot so you could
Huh?
kind of disguise it? Did they put hot pepper in it?
Well, they didn't. They never went very much for
Chili that.
Chili powder.
chili powders or anything like that. Everything had salt and pepper, of course, and quite a lot of pepper, really. But it had potatoes
And then put water over that and boil it all together in a big pot.
Yeah, I think we've tasted
And they'd
that.
stew it. Like,
It was nutritious.
Never did stew it.
would they kind of stew it in the Dutch oven?
Yes.
Cook it a long time, and you make
Yeah.
thick gravy with it. Kind of
Thick,
thick.
not
Was
too
it
thick.
good, Uncle Rip?
Oh yeah.
Sounds horrible.
Oh boy, you.
When you're hungry, it's good.
When
You
you're
get your-
21, you've been banding a bunch of cows. That tasted good, huh?
You could make son of a gun stew today if you had the stuff, couldn't you?
Yes, I could.
He made sourdough biscuits here
You
last
could-
year just playing around with it.
And you could make sourdough if you had the sourdough starter stuff.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh,
He made
How
some
high
for
those
Palmer
rolls
died, you
out, they
remember?
were stand up about that high,
yeah.
and brown on top.
Well, did you have butter to eat with your rolls?
No.
Didn't have any
No
butter.
butter, no
Just
milk.
syrup.
We
Uh-oh.
had plenty of syrup.
Yeah.
I'm just sick you've missed some of this.
Well, go on. Let's keep going with the pictures now. I'm recording.
Well, perhaps one of these days, Pachi will come visit.
Oh, he's fantastic. So,
Now,
I didn't know that.
that's Buster Lee.
Right here.
Who's Buster Lee?
Yeah, that's Buster Lee. That's the one that was a good bronc rider.
Do you remember Buster Lee?
Wasn't he handsome?
Oh, well, cowboys, they weren't so bad looking, but there wasn't any of them very pretty. So they kind of went through
It was cowboy, he's 13.
rough.
There were
rough
Right.
deal.
Could this be that guy in that shirt that you said is 6? Is that same shirt?
No.
Looks a whole lot like it, don't
It
it?
does. Stand down, notice.
Excuse me, Lynn.
No, that's all right. We found out what they called this typical cowboy, but his baby called him 6.
Because he was from the 460s.
They called him 6.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
He came in there about sundown one night, riding a little old bitty skinny horse, wanted a job, and
The typical cowboy did?
and I said, well, what can you do? Oh, well, where are you from? Let's find out something here. And he said, I'm from the 4-6 outfit. My uncle is the manager of the 4-6 ranch, which was true. I remember that. And he said, but he kind of put the damper on me. That is, he wouldn't let him ride those bucking horses. He was a young fellow, he was about 20, I guess. He was kind of trying to protect him. And he said, I want to get wild. I said, well, just come on down. We'll help you get just as wild as we've got them. And I gave him all of the wild horses, all the meanest ones we had. But I told him about them. I said, now this one here, you get on him, he'll buck just as long as he can, and then he'll start running. And he'll just run till he gives out. And you're not going to stop him. And he said, I can't. I said, no, you're
Did he
not.
break some of them?
No, he never did break. You didn't break hardly any of those horses from those old habits they had, you know.
They just kept running.
And so they just run whenever they take them. Most things just really take off. My uncle, who was a half-me brake ball, he big and stout Cole was. Oh, he's stout. And he rode one of these horses I had all the time. He'd run away. That horse would grab those bits in his mouth and then put his shin like this. And there wasn't anything you could do to get it off of there.
Never lived to do that.
No, sure you could get it
I
off.
bet you know a bunch of these in
Yeah.
this picture here.
Small popsicles are bicycle.
Well, let's see now. This one of the Tuck boys right here, I think this is Jeff right here.
The first one.
Yeah. Oh, any trouble here?
Can you see? You need a man?
No, that's all right.
That might have been after the
Think
times
so.
that you were there. That might have been a later picture.
This looks like old Rip did in the early days.
Who?
He,
Oh,
just a kid.
I just wondered if, I bet in all of our pictures, we've got pictures.
I bet you do too.
See, that's a kid of a fellow there. I really think that might be me.
Let's see, Pachi. You think it might, Fred?
Yeah, I think so.
Let me see.
Well, it could be. And I probably have your picture
Right
in
here?
some others that are not in that book.
Right
Right
here.
here.
That-
Oh, wait a minute.
that's you.
You're right there.
Yeah, that's it.
Pachi, do you think it could be?
Huh?
Do you think it could be? That boy's awful good looking.
Oh,
Well, he was.
I got Rip was a pretty much.
Oh, man.
How do you think he got the name Rip?
Yeah.
How did you get the
I went
name Rip?
spur in 1911. And went out there on that ranch, and I didn't know a soul in the world. And I was sick and disgusted. And I broke them little old broncs. They were all locoed. Nearly every one of them. And you get on one of them, and they just buck the pitch till they give out.
They've been eating
And then-
local.
And then when they got hot, they do all kinds of crazy things. One of them run into the biggest old tank in that part of the country. And here we go swimming out there, and I knew that I couldn't, he couldn't swim to the bank. I didn't know which way it's going to go. So I just and I had a herder, you know, sitting out there on the bank waiting on me. What's called a herder. So I told him, I said, I'm going to slip off and grab him by the tail. And when he gets out there in that shallow water, if he does, you tie into him. He had a rope, you know, he could rope him. Because I had to turn him loose because he got in that shallow water. He'd have killed me out there.
Yeah.
He'd kicked me plumb back across that tank. And so he did. But they'd run over the fence, run into the fence, anything they could.
What about you say they're local? Does that mean they had been?
Eating that wheat.
There's a weed up there, you know, local weed.
Yeah.
Mr. Yeah, your dad knew all about that local weed.
And it would make them crazy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it still local weed growing out there?
Yes.
And the horses can still get in it and go crazy?
Well, it's not so plentiful as it used to be.
Yeah.
I think maybe they
Eradicated.
tried to poison it one time.
Then
Kill
why
it
did
out.
they call you Rip?
Well, I got out there and there was no liver until then. And I didn't shave. I never shaved. The spring, I went there in November, I believe it was. I didn't shave till spring. I didn't have but about 8 or 10 whiskers. They're about that long. You know? Just a little long whisker. The boys made them mad at me. Of course, I was about 3/4 in cowboy doings. I was about 3/4 tough. I mean, I didn't fear the horses. I didn't fear the men. I
You were
just
just
didn't
a
have.
cowboy.
Would you say you were a little smart aleck?
I was, for a fact. I was. True. My Uncle Doc told me I was.
Yeah.
He said, "You're a smart aleck." I said, anything, of course, I made me mad, Uncle Doc. I said, anything that you call me a smart aleck, I can do. I'll just show you. He got that from roping and riding, you know. I'd get on one of them old bucking horses and of course I got thrown, not a lot. Naturally you would if you rode. Well, they'd catch you napping the first one they learned. But, so I didn't shave till I went to Tongue River, which was over a year.
I just want with water.
Like them doggone whiskers, I guess got one overdone, though.
Used to be,
Right there.
And they called you Rip Van Winkle?
Well, he says, you look like old Red Van Winkle. One of these boys did.
That's what I thought.
Well, what is your first real name? Because I don't even know.
My first name,
Oh, no, that's.
Yeah.
Louis.
Louis.
L-E-W-I-E, Louis.
L-E-W-I-E. Louis. Not Louis, but Louis.
Louis.
And what's the A for?
Alfred.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
You got a brother named Alfred.
Uncle. Well, Louis and Alfred both.
Well, do people now call you Rip or Louis?
No, nobody ever called me Louis.
Well, I didn't think so, because I never did know.
No, I don't suppose I have done people in the world. No,
They
I
still,
mean,
everybody still calls you Rip. Well, that's a good
Louis
name.
A, isn't it?
Huh?
Is it Louis A?
Yeah.
Louis Al.
Do you recognize this loading of these cows here? And
No.
you know where that is? Do you recall ever hearing the names of these mules called Chico and Stud and Red and?
Chico and Stud. This is Chico and Stud.
Uh-huh.
And this is
Is one named Booger?
Booger. This is Booger. Get that old horse name.
The Red was one named Red.
Yep, he was a sorrel horse. Sorrel.
Yeah.
Red. Chico and Stud. This was Stud, and he was the meanest little booger you ever saw.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, he hard to handle.
Well, everybody remembers those horses that have looked at them. Burl Sauls remembered them.
Yeah.
Bert Johnson remembered them, and you remembered them.
Yeah.
You remember horses, but you can't remember people's names.
Isn't that funny?
That's something. It sure is.
Sure.
Isn't that a great action shot?
Sure is. Now this is a company picture long ago. These boys here now,
You saw it in Sophie. Is it Sophie?
I think these boys here are Tuck boys. These two here, they worked there a long
Yeah,
time.
Tux.
And they
They
were
used,
brothers.
yeah, they were brothers, and they used to come down here, and they'd let us come to the rodeo every year, you know.
Do the
Sanford
Tucks, do
rodeo.
they still have anybody living by that name around
Not
this
I know.
part? No Tucks living, because I never did hear the name.
I know that both of the boys died.
Yeah, and they didn't have any sons, I don't suppose.
No, I don't think so. I don't believe they ever married.
Yeah.
Really? This one and my youngest brother rode horses bareback in the rodeo at the cowboy reunion.
Yeah.
And my brother sat on the horse's neck, and this one sat